What can we expect to see from the TVA going forward, and how might they play a role in the future of the MCU? The TVA has had a long and complicated tenure as the multiverse's premier police force, and has been through quite the evolution into a much more benevolent entity. At first, they were used as a private army for He Who Remains, and many of them seem to have taken part in the last multiversal war against the Kang variants, including, but not limited to, Ravonna, who seemed to be Kang's right hand. They were also tasked with stripping the timeline of free will and arresting anyone who deviated from their predetermined path in an effort to protect the sacred timeline. But now, they seem to be a much more lenient and, more importantly, a much more specifically focused force. So today, my friends, let's discuss what we might see from the TVA and its agents moving forward, and how this might affect future projects such as Deadpool 3 and the next Avengers films. As of right now, it seems as though the TVA is specifically targeting individuals that threaten the safety and security of entire realities, and will no longer be targeting Nexus events like they've done in the past. This seems that the stakes for their intervention are now greater, but it also seems that the threats they face will be more difficult than ever before. Until now, many of the individuals that the TVA pruned were regular individuals who had the misfortune of making the wrong choice. Now though, they might be dealing with more malevolent entities who are intentionally causing harm to other realities. We know that they are already monitoring variants of Kang the Conqueror, and are going to be on the lookout for invasions and assaults by these individuals. This means that if Kang were ever to make landfall, be it in Earth 616 or in another reality, then the TVA may be the first responders who seek to contain the invasion. Normally, when Kang invades a reality, he is tasked with fighting off the defense forces of that specific timeline, and this includes their roster of heroes, governments, and whatever other safeguards they may have in place. Now, however, there might be an army specially designed to confront variants of Kang, giving multiversal variants of the Avengers their own backup. It's important to remember that it was He Who Remains who armed the TVA with weapons designed to fight his variants as a holdover from the multiversal conflict. And if there is any force that is tailor-made to fight off Kang's, it would be the TVA. This doesn't mean that the Minutemen wouldn't need to adapt, however, as many of them may have never been on the front lines of an all-out war. But this might not be an issue for long. If Avengers 5 still wants to see Earth 16 being invaded by Kang and pitting the Avengers against his forces, then they might have some assistance in their fight. While the TVA may be trying to prevent individuals from causing incursions, we don't know if they have the means to stop an incursion once it's began. And if they're ever too late, then this responsibility may fall to someone like Doctor Strange or Clea. This also isn't to say that there aren't other applications for the TVA, just that this is their largest and most pressing mission. If they're also being tasked with protecting the multiverse from people who could tamper with the sanctity of universes, then we believe the next culprit will be none other than Wade Wilson, Deadpool himself. Rumors about the TVA's inclusion in Deadpool 3 have been circulating through various sources for a while now, but nothing concrete has ever shown itself. If they are going to be present in Deadpool 3 though, then there may be a few reasons for the TVA's intervention. First, we know that Deadpool is going on a multiversal adventure, likely using Cable's time travel device from the end of the second Deadpool film. This might mean that if Deadpool is not careful, then he might begin to cause a risk of an incursion taking place, depending on when, where, and how he lands and what he does in that universe. We know that the longer someone is in a foreign reality, the higher the risk is that they will cause an incursion to take place. If Deadpool is going to go on an entire road trip adventure with a variant of Wolverine, then we believe he will spend a considerable amount of time in one or several other realities, at least on par with the time that Doctor Strange spent on Earth 838. We know that Strange only spent about a day on Earth 838, and less than that in the next reality that he visited, which hasn't been named yet by Marvel. Despite such a small footprint, however, we know that this triggered an incursion that now needs to be stopped, and if an incursion can be caused in as little as a day, then Deadpool is very likely to run this risk. It's also highly likely that the consequences of their actions also play a part in whether or not an incursion is imminent. Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards said that an incursion is caused by confusing and destabilizing reality, and Wanda killing the Illuminati likely destabilized that reality even further. She took away some of the key players in the superhero community and severely altered the future of these major teams. The Avengers have lost their captain, the Inhumans have lost their king, and the leader of the Fantastic Four was ripped apart. Wanda derailed the course of Earth 838's history so drastically that this might be one of the main reasons the incursion is taking place. This also means, however, that everybody that Deadpool drops on his trip with Wolverine makes the likelihood of an incursion even worse. If each death derails the history of the universe and destabilizes reality, then Deadpool is not the right person to send into another timeline. With all these details, it seems almost inevitable that the TVA will step in to arrest the Merc with the Mouth, and this variant of Wolverine as well, for their crimes against the multiverse, which could lead to a conflict with the TVA and Deadpool. It was also heavily rumored that the TVA will play a significant role in how Secret Wars plays out, and specifically in deciding which variants survived the destruction of the multiverse. In the original Secret Wars story, Reed Richards creates a sort of life raft for the survivors of his dying reality, but in the MCU, this responsibility may go to the TVA. If the TVA knows something larger is brewing under the surface of the multiversal war, then they might take steps toward protecting some of Earth's mightiest heroes from every Earth in order to fight the larger threat. At one point, this was a much more prominent rumor, but with the alleged Phase 5 and Phase 6 overhauls taking place, we're not sure how much of this will be changed, if any of it was ever valid at all. We do, however, know that they're in a prime spot to do so, and could very well decide who lives and who dies in the next iteration. They have access to a domain beyond time, which is where they've constructed their headquarters, and it's likely that the TVA base of operations would be able to survive the destruction of the multiverse. It seems that the TVA base remains untouched by external timelines, and there's no reason why the TVA should be subjected to an incursion at all. The only way that we know of right now that the TVA could reasonably fall is if it's directly attacked, which is still a possibility. If several, or even all of the timelines fell, then the TVA could become a haven for a select few survivors. If this is the case, then Deadpool and Wolverine's respective arrests at the end of Deadpool 3 may mean that they are being held in the TVA when the multiverse would die, and even as their realities fall apart, these two characters in particular could be spared. This could be when Battle World commences. The TVA will have already assembled a roster of heroes capable of fighting off the remaining Kangs, and these two will be present for that fight. But anyway, my friends, what do you think we can expect to see from the TVA in the near future? Do you think they'll be more present in Avengers 5? And do you think they'll play a major role in assembling the roster for Secret Wars? Do they have the means to stop an incursion, or are they simply being tasked with preventing people from causing incursions in the first place? Anyway, my friends, leave your thoughts and speculation on the TVA down below, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you're having a great day.